All right, hello everybody. Wow, I still have horrible delay. I thought I fixed that. All right, how is the volume? Can you hear me okay? It appears that I am having still horrible stream delay, even though I have set it to ultra low latency, 1 second delay, and it's still like 30 seconds behind. So I'm not sure what to do regarding that. It just might be an OBS problem. All right, good volume. That's good to hear. All right, so this might be slower than I imagined because I will be seeking your feedback on this. Today, today we're going to be ranking all 138 parts onto a tier list. So here is the tier list. We have 4 categories, and it's very important. I think every part in this tier list is good from a baseline. We don't have any horrible parts. We don't have any F tier parts. We start at C tier, and C tier in this is good. So please don't feel bad if you get in the C tier. Your part is still great for what the collab needed. I want to preface that a lot. We're going to be ranking these on the tier list from how well executed each part was, how visually appealing each part is, so like how much it would be like a Netflix thumbnail type thing, and then how much of a pain it was to merge into the collab. So execution, visual appeal, and merging / fixing, how annoying was it? So I saw someone say GD Cyborg first. We will do GD Cyborg's first. So, in case you forgot, here's GD Cyborg's part. And it ends right there when the background changes. I could also have someone tell me how terrible the YouTube quality is. I'd appreciate that, because I am kind of dual streaming it. Oh, that looks fine. That's a nice thing about delay, I guess. So, what are our opinions on GD Cyborg's part? My personal opinion, turn on the YouTube volume. Good idea. I will do that. It's desktop audio. Okay, that should be better. My opinion on GD Cyber's part. Visually, it looks maybe like a C. It's kind of simple on the side, but that is exactly what I wanted with this part. Cyber's part was meant to be simple. It was meant to be a good introduction, so I'm thinking it's B tier. I think the execution was decent. It does exactly what I needed to do. It's a good beginning. It's maybe not a visual masterpiece, but good beginning. 0 fixes needed except adding his name. So, like, I think that's a solid B tier in my opinion. Yeah, no, it's great. It's exactly what it needs to be. So, and that is a great part. Remember, B is great. It's not okay. B is a great part. Superior parts are going to be parts that are like, holy crap, this looks incredible. So, remember, this tier list, everything is good. There's not anything that's like terrible. So, yeah, you made a great part, GD Cyber. Not a good part, you made a great part. All right. we got a couple of the beginning ones, and then it's going to start going into alphabetical order just because of the way that it's uploaded. So we're going to do Imperial Arctics next. Okay. Let me pull that up in the video. So Imperial Arctics part, I had to do a lot of fixes for. I think it's worth noting that for Imperial Arctic, they built their part before they received the collab. So this used to be 10 seconds instead of 5. They had to completely change the gameplay. When I was merging it in, I had to merge it in twice because they submitted it twice to me. First without the collab, then with the collab attached to it. Gameplay I had to edit severely. There was a lot of awkward jumps inside it. Visual-wise, it used to be a whole lot brighter, which I don't think helped it. When we darkened the background, it certainly helped it a lot. So there's a lot of changes that need to be made in this. But hey, 4x4, good to see you here. It's an alright part now. Like, it looks really good now with the darkened background and the gameplay fixes and stuff. But because of how many problems I had getting this to work in the contest, I'm thinking it's a C tier. By C tier, it's a good part. It's still a good part. It's just there was a lot of fixing on my end and NLK's end that we had to do to make it work. So that's, I guess, a bit of a lore for that one. I would think this is a good part. Because of all the stuff that I need to work on, it is not a great, it's not like a amazing part, but it's good. It's good for the collab, so. Am I subbed to myself? Oh, yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm on my second account. You don't like the ground spikes floating like that? You don't like their custom background, then? I think the background works very well. It just needed, because this is what it used to look like the entire time. There used to be no background pulses, and that was a little eye-catching, but now it looks really subtle and really cool, so. Okay, next one is Kite Curie's part. I forget what their other name is, but that's their GD name. It's got some interesting designs, some cool text. Something I will say about it, we had to add a couple background details. It used to be a bit on the emptier side, so like these background pillars we added. And another thing, this is the only other big thing. Lots of gameplay fixes on this section because of these dots being extremely inconsistent. So I had to add this slab right here because there was so much inconsistency in how to do that first jump. Sometimes it just wouldn't work. This second one, I had to add an indication because I was fine with it, and the K couldn't beat it for the life of him. So I put in an indication because this makes you jump lower than you think you do, and Raven Rafters is kind of demonstrating that. Jumped at the indicator, and they're actually jumping way down here. That's just the way that the blocks work. Otherwise, I think this part is pretty good. The fixing was not too bad in comparison to Imperial Arctics, and it does have a pretty good visual appeal. So I am thinking a B tier for this one. I'd like to see what you all say. I'm thinking this is a great part. Yeah, that jump was really rough. But it was an easy fix, so I'm saying B tier. I will wait for stream to catch up and see what y'all are saying. Yeah, I don't think it had. Yeah, I was thinking B as well. I think the fixing was a fine amount. Just not. It wasn't overall too bad. But okay, gonna move on. Note block aces part. All right, so. Oh, that. Okay, yeah, so now we're getting to the stuff that's a little bit more out of order. This one's out of order from the rest, but. Ooh. Is that lagging? Oh, no. Okay, freeze a little bit. Okay, so note block aces part is actually right here. Okay, let's take a look at this one. All right, so it's worth noting that this had a little bit of a deco fix. These glow bits that you see on top of the blocks were added in by N0k. Additionally, these grid pillars are also added by N0k because it used to just look a little empty. And something that's also worth noting is Note Block Ace was a sub. So they got kind of thrown in last minute, had to come up with things on the spot. But the fixing was actually no gameplay fixes needed. It was just a couple really easy deco fixing. And it looks really nice. So I'm also going to say maybe a grade on that one. I don't think it's quite A tier yet. We did have to do a little bit of decoration upgrades to it, but it's still a solid collab part, and I quite enjoy the simplicity of it. So I'm gonna keep going because of the time. Seeing some people saying A. Supposed to be a hell themed part? Really? I don't think it's supposed to be a hell themed part. But yeah, B plus. I guess we could rank it in order. I wasn't planning on that. We could do that. So this is high B tier. I like that idea. We're gonna go high B tier for that one. Okay, next one. If you disagree with me, you can leave it in the comments. Specify. If you can specify the level, that'd be or part, that'd be awesome. That's Note Block Aces we just ranked. Oi, getting some lag when it comes to this. Okay, this is One Bad Creators part, which is it starts right here. So you can see their name right down there. This is a good part. The only change I needed to make to this part when merging it in was erasing these pulsing circles around the fake orbs. That's all I did. I'm not adding a D tier. There's no D tier parts. So that's all I did is I just erased these pulsing circles around the yellow ones. Otherwise, this part is incredible. Like, that's beautiful. I think that's a solid A tier. I think that's an excellent part. Yeah, solid A tier. Could have been more added in the background, I guess, around some of the emptier spots. And there's nothing like jaw-dropping, but it's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. I mean, the block design looks pretty cool for just 1.0. So I think One Bad Creator gets an A tier for that part. That was excellent. Okay. By the way, do you want to keep going in order, or do you just kind of want to jump around? I'm okay with either, so. Up to you. I will wait for people to respond, because we're going in alphabetical now. So, Mad Jack. Ooh, Mad Jack's just farther down. So this is alphabetical order now from here on out of the creator's name, because that's how I saved all the images. All right, here's Mad Jack's part. Watch that again. Now, what I will say about this part is The gameplay, very lackluster. There is actually only, 2 jumps you need to make? Because, on the proton jump is actually auto. I'll show you. So you could do nothing and you'd survive just based on the block boosting. So that is not a needed jump. So this whole thing is auto. Jump over one spike and jump over a second spike. But this is a thumbnail-worthy part. Like, the decoration in this goes crazy. And I honestly feel like the levels cut doesn't even do it enough justice. When you look at this in the editor, you can really just see how full and magnificent they designed this. So, Povanak, we do have a dance core part. It's the part before Magix, actually. But this is a very easy part. This is one of the easiest besides A1ways, so I'm actually thinking it's a superior. I had to do like no fixing for this, except when I was putting the proton or whatever thing on LDM, I had to make I had to make like a barrier. That's the only fix I had to do. Was when I was moving that to the LDM, I had to make this like barrier for it. So yeah, other than that, beautifully done part. So I think it's an S. I'm going to keep it in the S tier. Maybe it's a low S, but I still think it is a superior. That is the visual appeal that kind of makes an S tier. I'm going to keep it as a S tier, I think. Gameplay was not outright annoying. It's pretty easy. And frankly, it's right after a transition. I think it works. So. Okay. 4x4's part. Is 4x4 still in chat? Just out of curiosity? See, that's actually way near the end. By the way, yes, I can name every part just by looking at it. Alright, so here's 4x4 part. 4x4's part. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm doing this alphabetically. Sorry. Family members moving around. Let's go back and watch that again. Okay, so it start right here. It's a really nice part. Like, it's on the simpler side, but it does a great job with the simplicity. And I'm a real fan of like minimalism in GD, and this executes all that on minimalism like perfectly. Oh, give me a second. All right, I am back. Sorry about that. Wait. Okay. I agree with the people that were saying this is a high B tier. I actually think this part is better than No Block Aces a little bit because I think it syncs a lot better. As well as it's just the way that it's executed is like, if it just feels visually right. I could argue that this would be an A as well. So, yeah, excellent job for A4. This part is a great section of the collab, for sure. Oh, please don't tell me somebody's entering again. Okay. All right, let's do the net. We're gonna do kind of a random order is what I saw. So, I'm not worried that people are just gonna make noise. This is great. All right, we're just gonna pick from randomly here. I see funny farts. Let's do that one next. So that part is near the beginning here. There's the part. Play it again for y'all. Starting right here. All right. So for this section, okay. There was like no fixing that I had to do. Like everything was fine. I just had to add their name and a couple stuff on LDM, which is like that was the average amount of work each section needed in merge. It's simple, but I think it works decently well. Something I think that's interesting is that there is fake orbs and fake pads, but they're pulled off in a way that it's easy to read. And I think that's really, really good. I think this is a low B. I actually might put it here. Might swap these two around because, again, I had no fixing need to be done on this. So there is nothing I needed to do in that. It was a great, well done part. Let's take a look at the other simple stuff then. I see this one here. F infusers. What are some other ones? Kilty. Crew. Cat Yara. I'm thinking like classic 1.0 styled ones. Cody. Let's do these. All right. I just got a DM for something I don't understand what it said. So, next part we're going to look at is Green Luck YouTubes. Or Green Luck YTs. Where? I do forget where this one is. It's near the ending section, I believe. Oh, there it is. There it is. We're starting right here at 1041. All right. So, things to know about this. They are a sub. So, they had to come up with things on the last minute. And this part had to be nerfed quite heavily, actually. I had to nerf this triple a little bit. Not too bad because it is a fall into it. This rocket portal setup. There's a lot of rocket and cube portals. So what happens is sometimes it throws you to the ground because it catches the cube's gravity when you're entering the portal. And this used to be like a less than a gap straight fly. I had to nerf this quite heavily several times actually because every single time it'd be too tight, especially with this transitional entrance. This part I had to, I think, move some stuff over, and I had to. Oh no, actually I kept that the same. But yeah, so a couple fixes. I had to actually completely change the way this first entrance worked. I think I had to add this platform here because there used to not be anything or something like that. And yeah, that's about all the fixes I did. Visually, the part's okay. I think it's a good representation of a neoclassic style. Again, these portals, though, are a little bit funky. And I think just due to the fact that I needed to make a lot of fixes to it, I think this is probably a high C. That's my opinion. What do y'all think about that? I saw a couple people saying maybe. Yeah, it definitely is. But the thing is, UG or Ultra Gamer, is that I nerfed the parts as I was merging them in. So yeah, changes count. If the part gave me a huge headache to change it, I'm keeping that in mind. This part wasn't too bad, but at the same time, its execution I felt like was maybe a little weak. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I still think the part is extremely good. I just don't know if it's C or B. That's the problem I'm running into. I don't know if it's a good part or a great part. So I think just due to the difficulty it used to be, I'm going to put it in the C section. But yeah, there's no unnerfed always forever. No, I don't have any original version to help keep things on track because I make so many fixes. I literally deleted copies that I didn't need. So yeah, it just, and that we're going to see a couple more parts like that are just going to be a lot lower than you think they are because the amount of fixes I had to do were insane. This one is not bad. It's not bad on the fixes. I could honestly see it being here in B tier. I might change that later. I'm just going to keep it there for now because B tier is pretty hefty right now. But it's still a good part. It's definitely a good part. Next is FN Fusers. I actually think this is a B tier. Is it simple? Yes. But it's one of the most fun parts of the collab. The only thing we needed to fix was a couple secret ways that were possible on both LDM and normal mode. Which is not a big problem at all. Like, it was just me spamming spikes below the part. But like, the background and the pulsing is like perfect for this like a neoclassic style. I think that looks really, really cool. Ultra Gamer, I did like no fixes on yours, so don't worry. Speaking about fixes, FN Fuser's part had 0 fixes except I added their name, which I had to do to like every part. So I think this is a B tier, a solid B tier. I would actually put it right, just slightly above GD Cyborgs because the gameplay is very fun in this part. So I would put it here. It's probably one of the single-handed fun parts in the collab. There's a couple others, but this is an extremely fun part. All of FN Fuser's gameplay is really fun. If you've not played their entries to the contest, I highly recommend doing so. All right, the next one we're going to look at is Kilties. I just got more lag. That's OBS lagging. So, Kilties part. Where exactly is that? It's somewhere. It's after the halfway point. There it is. This is not Kilties part. That's Bolts and Gears. Here's Kilties part. So. Again, very simple, but it transitions extremely well into Zitnix's part. Like, this transition is probably one of my favorite in the collab. If you've not seen Humble Beginnings, their CC entry, this is kind of exactly the style of Humble Beginnings. Like, visually, it's extremely on the simple side, but this part is also very fun. It required little to no fixing, except for adding this crazy coin. For reference, the coin that I added here is really, honestly, just awesome. If you have not tried to go for it, I would recommend it. It's one of the hardest coins in the collab, but I think you gotta side step on this block to go up and get that. Which does give me a more personal bias towards liking this section. I don't think it's an A tier personally. I do think it is a solid B tier though. And I'm just debating because I think the coin's going to put it above F infusers for me. But there's another problem with this part that I do want to address. And that is the sync via its background is not very prominent. There's not too much in the way of sync. So I'm thinking actually F Infuser's sync is so good that I'm going to maybe put it right below it. Again, I think these two could swap, but yeah, for sure. A lot of these simple parts are going to probably be around the B section, which is A-okay because they are great. Next one we're going to look at is Cruise. Cruise is another one that I think I made an excellent coin route on. Cruise actually right after this one. That's the coin route. I hit many little grid blocks beneath the spikes. McChicken, I don't think it's more fun than F Infuser section, but yeah, so that coin route is very fun. The actual lower route is still really good. The thing with this section is that it's really simple. And fun fact, Crew was supposed to enter my contest, but they ended up not entering because they got scared of all the other levels that were entered. So I'm personally debating if this is high C or B. I will say I had no fixes for this, so I'm going to lean towards B for that part. There was no fixes needed. It's just very on the simple side. But yeah, Crew was going to enter the contest with like a simple 1.0 level. Decided against it because they didn't like how simple it was compared to everything else. So that's a interesting thing. I was actually scared off by Phantom Engine, I believe, because I think it was Crew and Echo and NLK are all friends with each other or something. I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong. But Phantom Engine was made during like Discord live streams, is what I heard, and I think watching the process of that was what kind of scared him. I think this is a good spot for it right now. We can also change things later. Okay, we're going to do 2 more simple parts, then we'll jump into some other random ones. Cat Yar's parts. It's going to be at the beginning of the final section. Yeah, there it is. All right, something I will say about this section is that I had to nerf the first jump because just the way of how the parts got merged. Not Cat Yar's fault, but because of the way the parts were merged, that was a blind jump, especially with it being a new gameplay concept in the collab. So I did have to add a couple pads, as well as I added the black down here to make his name easier to see. But really, little to no fixing was required. Oh, that's too far. Visual-wise, I do think it's a little weak. I definitely see what they were going for. Gameplay-wise, this part is probably some of the more unique gameplay in the collab. This is almost like rocket jumps, which I think is pretty cool. It is a very satisfying part to take a look at. That being said, it is very lacking in its visuals, would be my say on it. So I'm not sure exactly where it goes. I kind of want to see what you guys say about it. Yeah, the gameplay is fun. Its execution is decent. Its visuals might be a bit on the weak side, but it's also in a simpler style. So I'm not doing them in order. I'm just kind of doing them in a random. So my personal opinion would be maybe very high C tier, but I also see some people saying B tier because of the gameplay, and enjoyability is something that is important as well. I'll put it there. Yeah. Again, we can fix this later. I'm going to put it in the very low B tier here because I do think it is a good part, or a great part, sorry. I don't think it's mid B tier. I think the visuals need to be a little bit stronger for a mid B tier, but I think that's a good spot for it. That's another thing. I'm not a huge fan of the colors they chose in the background. No, actually, they're pretty good. Yeah, no, they're pretty good. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I said that. I think the colors are pretty good. They're bright, but that's not anything bad, so. Okay. I wanted to... Actually, no, let's just do random stuff. Actually, I'm going to do... I saw that Nitro mentioned doing his part, so we're going to do his part next. I don't know if he has to leave soon or something, but... Nitro 2. He is going to be... right there, after Chakins. Chakins is going to be an interesting one to grade. Or to tier list. Alright, here's Nitro's. Nitro's another one where I did absolutely nothing to, except maybe move a pad slightly up. Because it's a perfect difficulty for the collab. So all I did on Nitro's was make an LDM. Visually, I think it's all right. I'm not entirely sure if it does enough. It is very well executed. Didn't have to make many changes, so I'm thinking probably low A. Visually, I think it could have maybe done a little bit more. But I do think it is a low A because its execution was very well done. And didn't need to do like any changes to it. So I do think maybe perhaps it could have maybe done a little bit of a better background color. Is that like peachy pink color looks a little odd in contrast to the blue of the player color. So I don't know. I'm debating between very high B and low A. I think we're going to put it in low A for right now. So, yeah. All right, let's do another one. This one's popping out to me. Let's do that one. So this one we actually have to give a little bit more special treatment to because this is the first transition in the collab. So the player's perception of transitions is from this first part. And I think that's pretty solid. It actually, without meaning to, introduces a unfamiliar gimmick to the collab, which is teleblocks. So visually, I think it looks okay. Execution-wise, it could have maybe been a little better. This always tripped me out. I always wanted to jump here. We fixed that by adding spikes here. I used to have a spike down here, and that would look terrible. It was my fault. But execution wise, you can see that there's like black missing in some sections. Like there's an entire dot structure missing here. These chain things are kind of not evenly spaced out. And this also looks a little bit messy with the way that this grid block was laid down. The name has some visual inconsistencies as well. And we also get some visual inconsistencies in the telewall that they put in. So execution, actually, I don't think is very high. The gameplay is decent. It does do a lot of rising, and a lot of it is because this is slightly blind, not too bad. And this is fine. And then you kind of got to trust the Q portals there. I'm not sure how many random people have just went down thinking that was a wall, but I think personally, I think it's a great part, maybe not an excellent part, just because the execution was not amazing. So there's also a lot of layering problems in this. I'm actually going to put it here. Maybe, I'm going to put it here. I do think 4x4's execution puts it above it, but I don't think it's an S tier. I don't think it does visually enough to warrant an S tier at all. The S tiers are going to be very apparent when we reach them. Like, Magix is maybe a questionable S tier, but there's some parts that I definitely would give a solid S to. And this is actually pretty good. Having it balanced, using like the bell curve theory, having it balanced in the middle is actually makes a collab very good. So, okay, let us take a look at another part. Let's do this one. Yeah, this one, the stars just popped out to me. This is the second last part in the collab. So, and actually, this is something the video is not going to do justice to. So in the video, Raving Rafters takes the hardest possible route in this part. So this is not, part starts here. You're actually supposed to go down, like all of this is telling you to. Raving Rafters takes the part that's like Extreme Demon. And that's the coin route. That is not characteristic of what the part actually looks like. What the part actually looks like. Let me see if I can find... Here's my verification video. So we're gonna wait, and I'm gonna show you the actual route that you're supposed to take. A lot easier. So that's what you're supposed to take. Now let me tell you, this looked, when I got this part, that route didn't exist. This part was so ridiculously hard for the second last part that I had to do significant changes. I also should mention that the stars that you see at the bottom of this part were actually added by me during a deco fix, just so this part wasn't just empty black. These yellow stars I added post deco fix because they were originally only for the top coin route. But I cannot stress enough, this part was way too hard. I asked them to fix it because it was so hard. I actually can't remember if I fixed it myself or if I had them fix it, but I told them, no, I had them resend it to me because it was way too hard. So when I got it back, it was still way too hard. So I had to fix it again. Just for that, I'm putting it in C. Visually, I think it could have been a lot stronger. Execution-wise, it's a lot of just blocks, which works because it's kind of a floating debris section, which I think is fine. But it used to just be the coin routes, except there wasn't a coin. Like, we're talking extreme demon timings used to be in this. So I'm actually going to put it at the bottom of C. I had to do a whole bunch of fixing to make this work inside the collab, because there was a couple people that had the idea in their mind that the ending should be stupid hard because it'll make it memorable. And I don't know about you, but I think that is a horrible way to balance a 13-minute collab. So they sent over an extreme demon part. I was like, hell no. We're not having that in here. Everything's going to be balanced. So it works really well transition-wise, but it needed pretty desperate fixes for me to consider this. It also has a great filter, or a place where the only way to get through is at the bottom. They added a giant wall, which I very much appreciate. So there's no way it could be cheated, but way too hard. Way too hard in its unnerfed state. I had to do a whole lot of changes to that. So, okay, let's see some other parts. What's eye-catching? These eyes are eye-catching. Let's do that next. Let's go back to this video. This part is in this like second section. Okay. We're starting right here is MacBook Pro 16's part. That looks crazy good. Now, I will say this section actually goes above the object cap that I had. I think it's like 7,500 when the cap was about 5,000 per part. And I also had to do some nerfs. There were some awkward jumps, as well as some of the fingers were a little bit too close to the rocket portals, so I had to move some stuff around. But it's honestly not too bad. They actually made their own LDM as well, and the LDM is extremely well done. So I think that kind of cancels it out, because I had to do like no LDM work on this. So execution-wise, I think this is executed very well. I'm thinking it is top of A, actually maybe S. Because this is a very visually appealing part. Well, why did that move into S? Move back down there. I think this is S tier. Oh, we're thinking A tier, actually. Interesting. Think it's top of A. Okay. Because this would be a part that I feel like could be a thumbnail. That's the thing. So, yeah, not entirely sure. We'll keep it at top of A because I see a lot of people saying A. I think it could be an S, but we can save the S for the couple of parts that I think would be awesome. Hey, I see Slod's part. Here, let's do that. Slod's part's right after Xylonox's. So nine, that's Zypher's, not Xylonox. What am I doing? All right. So Raven Rafters took the coin route. The other route is going down through the castle, which you just kind of hold. This I had to fix, actually, because getting into that gap is really hard. All it needed was a half slap. Nothing too major. Also, a fun fact. This one took a lot of work because it was my fault. I used to think this route was the main route, so I added arrows up to this. And I fixed some problems up here because I'm like, yeah, this is the main route. stupid me didn't actually think that this was supposed to be a coin section with the hidden crab gambling, okay? I also had to finish this dragon. Again, not Slod's fault. Slodziak thought about was gonna do that. Musics didn't do that, so I just added that real fast. Not a problem. I will say I'm not too keen on the background choice. There's also some illegal 1.0 layering that happens here. So like you can see here, grid blocks are above the spikes. There was also some stuff like that you could go, the dragon would phase over yours, which is not. Yeah, this used to be on like top 4, which I had to change. So there's some layering stuff that I had to fix in this. And I still didn't fix in this. I had to erase these blocks because the transition was a little weird. Give me a second. I think it should be fine. But yeah, I'm not too keen on the background changes on. I don't like that color of orange, especially with the gigacollab color. But Santi, I could do your part after this, yeah. But yeah, those dragons are like really thumbnail worthy. So I'm a bit torn on this. Because part of me is saying it's A tier. But I also see some people saying it's their favorite part in the collab. That they really like the arts in here. I'm thinking A though because it used illegal layering. And it illegal 1.0 layering. And there was a couple parts that, quite a few parts that did that, and I couldn't fix everything. But I do think it's top of A. I actually like MacBook Pros a little bit better, but I also see some people saying it should be S. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for right now. We can reorder a bit later. So I'm going to keep it at a tier. Also, when I was grabbing thumbnails, I tried to grab it that like kind of signified the entire part in like one image. And I think I did a really good job grabbing that for the Slod so you can really see what's going on there. Yeah, I'm going to do A just because of the layering, actually. Sorry, Slods, but... Okay, let's do something down here. Oh, wait, I was going to do Santy Foxes. Let's do that. Where's Santy's? It's lagging again. Where's Santy Foxes? It's going to be an S. Should be somewhere. That's T-double-O. Why am I struggling? Oh, Tater. Okay, so it's a little higher than that. Why am I struggling to find this? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Blind. I'm so blind. All right. Santy Foxes are going to be a little bit later here. I think they're actually after Magic. No, they're not. They're before. There they are. It's after this section, so we gotta wait a little bit. All right, here we go. Okay, so with this part, that first orb jump what caused so many problems for me. And the issue was, due to the way that this first jump was kind of free, you could enter this portal in like 20 different ways and get a different outcome. So, oh, did Santi already leave? I'm so sorry. But so I had to edit this so bad. I had to edit this so much. So I did have to make a giant change there. Also, the gameplay used to be way too hard, especially in this rocket part. I personally didn't think it was that hard, but a lot of people were saying that. My playtesters were saying that it was really difficult to get down, especially from a playing standpoint, or from a new player standpoint. So I'm actually thinking like about a mid-tier B for this one, because the deco, although it does look nice, there is some execution things that look a little weird, like this random chain here. These blocks kind of look a little bit out of place. I do kind of get the idea it was supposed to be like a maybe a swirl of stuff, but I'm thinking it is in our great tier area. I'm actually gonna maybe put it right above. Yeah, I'll put it about there for right now. So I think this is a B tier, like a mid B tier. If it had a little bit better execution, I could definitely see it being boosted up, but it gave me quite a few gameplay problems, unfortunately, which I could totally understand missing. So I'd put it at a B tier. It is a great part. Okay. Let's do this part next. This is Penguin Meme King's part. And something I really, really like about what Penguin Meme King did is he was one of the very, very few people who, when he had two parts around him, merged the two together. And you're going to be able to see that. So here's King Cat's part, and then Penguin Meme King's part afterwards. Very smooth merge there. And then he adds a drawbridge to Russian Rob Top's castle, which I think it's really well done. I like how smoothly he was able to transition between two seemingly non-connected parts. We get this like diamond cave with water rushing down. Good use of the player color there. I will say, these orbs gave me a bit of a headache. I had to make sure that they were positioned in a way that was the most consistent with the pads there. Also, to prevent skips, I had to add a little bit more clouds. I'd add a few spike clouds in this section to avoid skips. But very cool flower designs down there as well. There's fish down there, you just can't really see them very well. Nice perspective on the drawbridge. I will say this part does come off as slightly empty. And I think that's just kind of due to the like the cave nature. It's not too bad, actually. So my first thought is putting this at high B tier. Like somewhere like right there. I see a lot of people saying A tier. The thing is that the deco's not amazing. It is very good. Maybe it does deserve bottom A. So we're gonna do some bottom A. Seeing some people, they want another S tier, so I'm going to do it Actually, I'm going to put this maybe above Nitros. I thought the colors and pulses were really well done on that. Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to put it in the low A section. Okay, I'm seeing some people asking for an S tier, so we're going to do an S tier next that I know is S tier. Or that I would presume to be S tier. And that is Rat Liffey's part. So it starts right here. This part blew me away by its execution. Like, it is beautifully done. And it's extremely well done as well. Now that's a transition thing I had to fix, but that is not a fault of Rat Liffey's. That's because the old transition bugged out, and that was on not a moderator's part. But look at how well done they managed to make this look. Like, that is thumbnail worthy in its decoration. So, this part does have aura. So, I personally, when I was thinking what could be an S tier, this part immediately came to my head. Okay, now I will say there was a couple problems with something in here. Actually, only really one problem. This logo that they have was not on the right color. Like, it was on like color 3. So I had to change it to color 1. But that is like, it was not a visual problem at all. This is, I think, a solid S. There's like no fixing I needed to do on it. I think that is it's a part that blew my mind. And that's kind of what S tier is for. It's like parts where like the execution decoration just blew my mind and I didn't have to like fix anything. So frankly, I think the gameplay plays really well. It's one of my favorite parts to play. It's a little scary with this transition down here, but something you need to know is this star actually boosts you up if you don't tap. So it is fail-safe as well in the way that it was designed, which I also think was a very cool idea, very cool attention to detail. Okay, let's do this one. This is Keith 1 Roblox. This part should be before Zoobs. I think it's this way. Right. No. Where? No, it's not before Zoom. It's for the real darknesses. It's over here. All right, we're gonna look at Keith's parts right after Nitro's. There's gonna be some other S tiers for sure. Yeah, so Keith's, I do really like just the blue on black. It looks really cool. I did have to fix some gameplay stuff. He used to have these portals in a rectangular block, which would potentially kill you if you hit the orb too early. So I had to erase that. The gameplay feels a bit scary just because of how spaced out it is, but it's not bad at all. There's also some movement that had to be made with the spikes because they were just too close together. So for this section, I'm kind of feeling like it's a high B because the execution of these stars feels a little bit on the messier side, especially these giant hexagons that they did. Kind of look a little weird. So I'm thinking it's an A B tier part. I'd put it maybe right around Fly Ninjas. I think is solid for it. So, oh, we want to do funny numbers. Okay, what are the funny numbers? Part 21. Let's do that one next. I actually don't remember what part that is. Oh god, I don't even know what 21 would be. Yeah, we're not going to do funny numbers just because I don't know the parts, but I do know one of them, and that's Shaken's. Let's do Shaken's. It is time for the discussion. Shaken's part is probably going to be the most divisive among y'all. Oh, this is ampersand. Let's watch through this. Alright, so something to notice about Shaken's is that everything in here, the blocks and the general designs, are based around the number 69. Which is a really cool idea. The problem is this gameplay is probably the biggest choke point of the entire collab. Now, what Raving Rafters did is not what I would recommend anybody doing. In fact, let me take a look here. Let me go to the verifying collab. Let me show you how you should actually tap on that part. Where is the... That's the wrong stream. It's this one. You tap to the melody. If you tap to the melody, you complete the part. The problem is... Oh, go back, please. Okay, I guess not. The problem with tapping in this is that there is nothing telling you gotta tap to the melody. You just have to know. You gotta practice it. And there is probably 80 different things you can do in this part because it is similar to O. It's completely freeform. It almost acts like a UFO in that regard. It's really beautiful in the way it's done, but this gave me such a horrible headache in having to nerf it. And this was like part 1. This is one of the first parts I received in the first wave. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, this might be an S tier in its deco and execution, like, but its gameplay and its and how much time it took me to fix was so much. I had to do so much work to make sure that if you tapped it wrong, it wouldn't kill you, or that it was open enough to where if you tapped it slightly late, you'd still survive. Lot of fixing that needed to be done on this. Like there's grid blocks down here that helps prevent you from dying. There's like hidden bounce pads to prevent you from landing in either direction. So I don't know. I would put it in S if the gameplay was awesome. The gameplay is like somewhere down here. So I don't know if it's top of B or bottom of A. That's my question. I'm pretty sure it was inspired by O. I'm gonna put it on top of B. I understand if you disagree with me, but this part gave me such a headache, especially in the first week that I received it, that I think it's gonna be top of B. So we can fix it later, but if there was some indication that you gotta tap to the melody, if there was like some pulse indication, which I did try to do and I couldn't figure out how to do in a well executed way, I would put it into A, but I don't think you quite realize how much this is one of the parts that gave me the most headache because of just the way that it took me an hour to it took me half an hour to figure out how to get through that section. Like I couldn't figure it out. And I'm sure people who have to play the collab are going to struggle in figuring that out. So I'm putting it on top of B, personally. That is not hard feelings. Once again, B means that it is a great part, and it is a great part. It's an excellent part. It's just the gameplay was slightly better. So, okay, I like Yuji's idea of doing 68, 67, and 66. Let's do that now. So 68 is going to be Ampersand's part. It's going to be up here. So here's Ampersand's part. Let's take a look at it inside here. It's actually right after mine, so I'll take a brief look at mine. I'm gonna say right now, it's S tier structuring. S tier designs, S tier structure. Give me a second. S tier structuring, S tier block designs. These are some of like the coolest designs in the collab. Like every single one is different. You can pause at all of them and you can just see how like well done it is. The problem with this one was the gameplay was way too hard. It took a lot of test playing from several of my test players to get this in a spot that felt fair. And some of that, what that meant is pad here, so you don't have to jump into that. You have to hold into this. I don't think I actually kept the pad there. Putting a pad here so that you didn't have to jump into this, because that was very unclear. Because the sinker was unclear that you had to actually jump up and get it. Adding some pulse stick indications around the entire section to kind of tell you where to jump, because this is also very unclear. Pad here because this was a blind jump and there's a lot of land there, but jumping into that can sometimes make people hold through it and die on the spike. So having a pad there lets people instinctively jump, which gets them to the orb. So yeah, a lot of thought went into fixing this section. So I'm a little torn on where it goes because of the gameplay problems. The sync is amazing. And even though it was a bit of a headache, it wasn't too bad. And I will say, once I got this part down, I never died here. It's very consistent, which is another amazing thing. Like, extremely perfect execution. Very good decoration. Gameplay was a lot of work to fix, but very consistent once you knew it. So I'm actually going to put this in A. I'm actually going to put it... Ooh. I'm going to put it right here. Yeah, I'm going to put it here. There's a lot of fixes I had to do in it, but honestly, the fixes don't detract too much from... Yeah. I would consider this an A tier. If the gameplay was as it is right now, when I received it, it'd be an S. But because I had to do a lot of fixing to it, I'm going to put it in A. So, but it wasn't like B amount of fixing. Like I didn't spend 30 minutes trying to figure out how to beat it. So, I'm going to put it there just because One Bad Creator had no fixes needed, except for like moving one spike. And erasing some pulse sticks. So I'm going to put it right here. But okay. We got a lot of parts to get through. Let's do this one. It's Pinkman's part. Okay, I'm going to say there was... There was, I think, 4 parts that my test players gave a little bit of flack to. This was one of them. And that was because this part, what it used to be, was that bright pink the entire time. Once we changed it to dark background with pink pulses, it's like a light switch went off, and this part just looks a whole lot better. Albeit still messy in execution, but the moment we erased that pink, it looked a whole lot better, because this used to be one of the parts that people were saying, this looks horrid. And I did get quite a few deco complaints in this. I didn't think it looked too terrible, but the moment that we added the dark pulsing, I think it just helped a lot. Granted, it is still very messy with its background deco. But also this transitional area where you can see past it, I fixed that in a later version after this showcase, so that is fixed. Problem is, where do we put it? Because visually, it probably goes in C. Gameplay-wise, it's kind of meh. It's very linear in its gameplay. But So I'm thinking it's top of C. I do think if it was better executed, it would be a B tier. But its execution was a bit poor, in my opinion. So it's a good part, especially with that background pulsing we added. I just don't know if it does enough. So Maroon needs to leave soon. We're doing Maroon's part next. Let me see if I can find Maroon's part. Oh, this is the problem of having it in. There it is. I will do those later. I'm going to do Maroon's first because Maroon's going to have to leave. So if I know you're leaving, I'm going to try to accommodate. Here's the Arenators. All right, here's Maroon's part right here. It looks a little confusing, but the route's actually really straightforward. And I really like it about that. It's like, it feels mazy, but it's not a maze. It's actually, it gets the feeling across without having the gameplay problems of having a maze section, which I do quite enjoy. Yeah, you'll be rating mine. There was also, I'm so glad a test, I'm so glad I was calculating coins in the level and I realized I had 21. People suggested I get 22. And I totally forgot I had a coin spot. Like, Maroon made a coin spot right here. So I'm glad that I was actually able to put a coin in there. It's not too hard to get into. You just have to jump a little earlier and then do a typical jump here. But it's a great spot for a coin. It's one of the easier coins to find as well. I also like how their name is the gameplay. Very creative in that aspect. I'm not a huge fan of the use of the this 1.0 block everywhere. I do think that execution might be a little low. But also, if you were to tell me that a part would use Maroon with the color and look good, I would have not believed you. But Maroon's pulled it off. The Maroon background with the pulsing actually looks really cool. I'm rambling a lot here. But is it A tier worthy deco? I wouldn't say so. I think if they would have added a little bit more blocks instead of just using this one for the entirety of the part, I would consider it to be maybe an A tier, but it is a good solid B tier in my opinion. In my humble opinion, I think this is a solid B. In fact, I would put it probably right above Fly Ninjas. So, high B tier in my opinion. Maroon is the name, Maroon is the game. I like that. Seb also has to go soon. I'm going to do Seb's part as well. That might be how it's going to work. So, Seb, you already know what I'm going to talk about. You already know what I'm going to be, my main talk point's going to be. We're doing Seb's part now. Which is... Where is that part? Oh god, I can't... Oh, here it is. So this is Seb's part. The designs are pretty cool. Let's talk about what I originally got sent, though. Any place you see a yellow orb, replace it with a blue orb. And there used to be some stuff up here that was unreadable that we had to erase. But Seb used blue orbs, everybody. So Seb used some blue orbs in this. It was just they forgot what the features were. I think they were building a 1.3 level at the time. But that did result in a lot of fixing. Granted, I was able to get it done in a planned period before I had to teach, and so it wasn't too bad. The designs are really nice, albeit they are a little bit block spammy, which I know some moderators have a huge problem with. Destriv. But otherwise, I do think it looks really cool. It does feel a bit on the spacious side, which I don't know what to feel like, but I'd put it around the top of B. Put it on the top of B. Just due to the blue orbs, I'm gonna put it maybe here. But still, it's pretty good. Pretty good. I know. I know. I just, for the tier list, I have to keep it in mind, Seb. Your part is great. It was easy to fix. But I do have to keep the blue orbs in mind. It's all right. Yeah, I do like it. So I'm going to put it about here in B. It's still a mid B placement. I think it's a good spot for it. Okay, we were going to finish out the 6766 realm, which means since y'all kind of know how I grade now, you get to grade part 6, 7. Guess who had that? You'll never be able to guess that. All right, part 6, 7 coming up. It's not 100% an S. Yo, I don't... My personal opinion is it's not an S tier, but that's just because it's my part, maybe. The reason I say not an S tier is because I actually don't like the execution. I think these trees look like a mess. There used to be a secret way in here. What do you mean you don't like the ship bottom? I'm curious. It had a secret way, yeah. I had to fix my own part post. Oh, you talk about the water. Yeah, the water is very chain spammy. So where do we think? I think we're gonna say A tier. Where in A tier do you want to put it? Where in A tier? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, or seventh? It is very creative for 1.0. I've been wanting to do a neon beach for a while. So I'm very glad I got the excuse to pull it off. And I'm very glad I didn't do it in an actual level. Where in high A? Where in mid A? I need you to say a number between 1 and 7 for A. 1 being first, 7 being the worst. I see a 3. I see a 3. 6, 7. A 2. Top of A, so a 1. I see a 2. I see a 2. Okay. I'm seeing a lot of 2s. So I'm going to put it right below our dragon friends. If you disagree, you can let me know later. 8? 8's not an option. Oh, I mean so many more. 3, 1 to 3, 4, 3, 3. Okay, getting a lot more 3s actually. We're gonna move it to 3. Okay, we're in 3s. I'm okay with that. A lot of you were saying S, and I was like, no. My part's not an S. I do like that I fit the auto sign here. But I think the ship looks really nice. The portals are a bit spammy, but I should have maybe made those backwards. Okay, we're going to look at part 66 now. The Airship Part by UG51. Yeah, this video doesn't do it justice. It took the coin route. There was 4 routes in this. I took the middle route on my verification video. Let me pull that up real fast. Guys, the gigacollab was just sent. The gigacollab was just sent. I just got the notification. The gigacollab was just sent. So here's the route I took. There's this top route with UG51's cube. There's a very top route with the coin. There's this route, which is storage, and these are floodlights. There's also a bottom route, which is the kitchen. And then we have this star transition NLK added for me because there's stars also around the airship. So it worked really well to transition between the 2 sections. Also, that's another reason my section's A. Look at that cutoff. That's terrible. But I think this is an S. I think it's an easy S. I had to do like no fixing to this except for maybe moving one block to make the bottom jump easier. Where is it? There it is. I think this is an easy S tier. Problem is, where in S tier do we put this? I think better than Mad Jack, maybe not as well executed as Ratlithy. I'm thinking maybe there. I have no idea what it was sent for, but I kind of want to check that, actually. Let me do a quick check of the levels, see if I can figure out who commented on it. No one commented on it. Not sure, but yeah. Yeah, I would put it here. Do we agree? Perfect. Okay. All right, we're done with the 66 through 69 sections. Let us I want to take a look at the Map Mart gang. Let's do Map Mart gang now. Map Mart was part 111. All right, this part starts right here. So we're going to take a look at it. And let's go back and watch that again. Now, this blue arrow didn't used to be here. This was the only arrow, and if you take this, it says smile hell and kills you. So I fixed that because that was really hard to read, especially since they're part 111. Also worth noting that this was originally supposed to be built with red as the player color, and I got sent like a 5-paragraph essay talking about the lore of this section and how it relates to their other collab sections, how it relates to the collab's theme as a whole, and how it encourages the player to break away from what's told of them to explore their own freedom. So you fall down here, you get sent to a hell of 666, some particle work on the floor there, and then this section here, you jump to avoid the spike, and then it flips you upside down, which is supposed to be a subversion of expectations. So the player gets confused while they're jumping, while they get flipped upside down. They think, oh, I was supposed to jump here because there's a spike there, but that also subverts your expectations. It actually bounces you, encouraging you to do more freedom. I had to add an indication here because there used to be people who thought you just had to fall. So adding an arrow and indicator here, because if you fall, you get sent to Hangman. get sent into the game of Hangman with death. But it's not breakaway. It's more of taking the path less traveled. You're not getting sent to hell. You're taking the path less traveled to finish the section. And that's the only way you can finish the section. It's like almost like a Saw puzzle map is in a way. Like you're trapped in here and need to think outside the box to get out. So Map Art wasn't huge on me adding an indication there, but he said it kind of looks like a teardrop. And it makes sense because you're stepping on this guy's eye. Then you got to go through the precarious mouth of the demon. There's a cheater text if you use no clip to get through this for some reason. I don't know why he had that, but you then have to do this precarious jump through the mouth, which you're less inclined to do because it looks dangerous. But again, this is a whole you have free will, do a choice that will make you get through. And then his name in 2.0 text, he asked me to add that, which made things a lot more difficult for fixing because I had to dot this out. He also has a synchro portal at the end. This, I actually had to move the spike down a little bit and move the synchro portal up because it was a little bit too difficult. But that is the section. That is kind of the plot of the section. There's additional stuff. Some fun facts is that every part Matt Mart has ever made for Mega Collab has been Necropolis styled. Hence why the bottom of here is red and Necropolis styled. There's a lot of Easter eggs if you take the wrong route. Like this is a doorway that leads to Smile Hell, which I think is a reference to some horror game. I don't remember. But yeah, let's talk about where we put it on the tier list. Because on its own, if it was in its own little bubble, this has a lot of lore behind it. And I would argue that, yeah, this would be a solid B tier. Because it requires the player to subvert their expectations, practice through things, and it makes you think. And I think that's awesome. In context of a giant Giga Collab at place 111, I don't know if it works. Especially since I had to do a lot of debates on how I would fix this. Because they're very strong on what they have made needs to stay the same. Because they didn't want me to rotate the arrow. So I had to add like a separate arrow. There's a lot of stuff that I had to negotiate with them to maybe figure things out. So I'm kind of thinking top of C, mainly because the decoration isn't amazing. The execution is amazing. The gameplay is a little rough for how far in the Mega Collab it is. It's a bit on the... I also have to do a fair amount of fixes to keep it balanced. So I'm going to put it maybe top of C right now. I might change that later. I think it could also be... Once again, it is still a good part. There's just a couple problems that I don't know if it boosts up to B, but I'm going to put it at the top of C. Because I do think a lot of effort lore-wise went into this section, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. And it's one of the very few entry parts I can say that about. So yeah, the part doesn't really fit, so I'm going to put it top of C. Matt Mart might not be happy with that, but I do have to give Matt Mart credit, though. It's because of him that I was actually able to get Cody. So we'll do Cody's part after this next section, because I need to talk about F0rever's part. F0rever's part is right after Matt Mart's. So something about F0rever's part is it's one of those maze parts that feels like a maze but isn't actually a maze. Hey, Maniac Dan. So it's actually really cool. It looks like it'd be more difficult than it is, but if you're actually looking ahead, it makes a lot of sense. Which I think is really cool. What doesn't make a lot of sense is some of F0rever's execution decisions. Take a look at the background of this part. What does it say in the background of this part? I will give you a moment to think about it. And tell me. What does it say? The entire part's background says Matt Mart. And this was... Here's the problem, y'all. It used to be in the background, and every spot that you see, these random dots used to say Matt Mart's name everywhere. F0rever wasn't here. It used to be Matt Mart everywhere. And it was so bad that it looked like Matt Mart's part. And see, you can see how Matt Mart's name is at the very end of his section. So my concern was, people see this and they think, oh, Matt Mart made this part. When in reality, Matt Mart made the before part. So I talked to them like, hey, you can't do this, especially since you didn't ask for permission. So we talked it through. They changed it to this just like dot design, and we kept the Matt Mart in the background because it was not very readable and it wouldn't confuse people. But I think that needs to take a play into this, because I had to wait like an extra 4 days for them to fix all the Matt Mart text spam. I'm thinking right now it's probably there in B tier, somewhere around here. Because the execution is fairly decent once they fix the Matt Mart spam. But... And then Matt Mart talked with me about it later, and he's like, that's so funny, lol. And he would be like, I honestly wouldn't have minded that. And then I told him, yeah, but it made it look like your part. And he's like, yeah, that makes sense. So it is funny. Yeah, very funny. It's going right up here in S. No, we're not going to boost it for being funny. I'm actually going to put it, I think, right below Seb's. Maybe right above Seb's. I think right there is a good spot for it. It's hilarious. Absolute fanboying Matt Mart in that spot. All right. Last one I'd consider part of Matt Mart gang is Cody, because Cody got in the collab thanks to Matt Mart. Matt Mart has connections to Cody because he contacted Cody for some videos. And he asked me, would you like someone originally from 1.0 to participate in this collab? And I'm like, that would be amazing. Let me double check to make sure I have the spot for it. And turns out I did. So let's take a look at Cody's part. It's so interesting because this part also just kind of screams Cody to me with the way that it was designed. Because those who don't know, Cody actually has a registered GD account, which is Gininder, Ggindinder. And they released a 1.0 level back at the very start of 2.1. Which really kind of demonstrates this style that they put in here. They also did a decent job merging here by adding these grid blocks to kind of be between Cat Yara's and their part. All I had to add to this, by the way, was arrows and their name. Also, they were, when they saw their full part, they were just taken aback and so appreciative that somebody added a name for them. Like, Cody's a very cool dude, very respectful as well. I Am Cody's actually not their account. I Am Cody was an account that was made in response to a hacking scandal that occurred where all of Cody's levels got lost because their green user account got taken down. So to fix that, RobTop gave them a gold user account that they don't have access to. It's a legacy account. Their gold user account is GGININDER. Yeah, very cool. Very interesting bit of lore there. But yeah, where do we think this places? For legacy reasons, S tier is arguable, but in terms of what we're tier listing, which is execution, visual appeal, and fixing, I actually think it's probably top of A. I think it's high A. Do we think it's above dragons, above eyes, or above Scully's ship? Where do we think? Dragon, eye, or Scully's ship? Where is it going above? Dragon, eye, below Scully's ship. You think it goes right here? We're going to put it below Scully's ship. I'm not putting it above Dragon. I think this is a good spot for it. I'll do that so I'm not biased against myself. Okay, that's final. That's final for right now. Very super clean. I mean, visually and execution-wise, it might even be a B tier, but because this is by an original guy from 1.0, there's like a legacy behind this. I think putting it in this spot in A tier fits because there's a lot of legacy in that section. Okay, that's Map Mart, gang. Those three I would consider part of like the Map Mart crusade. Let's do NLK's part because I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. And then we'll do Mr. Hand here. Oh, and then we'll do this one. That one's also really good. And maybe that one. Okay, that's our order. Then we're going to do these 5 next. Okay, NLK's part. That is actually how you say their name, by the way. So I don't want to hear anyone saying no lock. It's NLK. So that's what we're working with. Something you need to know about this part is that this is actually a direct reference to the first art level ever in GD, which was called Trip to Jurassic Park, built back in like 1.0. It was the first time anyone did any sort of art whatsoever in the game. It designed like Brachiosaurus art, and there was some like pterodactyl art inside it. And Noah K is referencing that level with his section here, which I think is very cool to know. I know Slod said this was their favorite part, so. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I went too far back. I don't know if I would put it in S personally, but I will say I had to do 0 fixes in this section. This rocket part is about the difficulty of a 3-star, but it still has you do stuff, which I think works very well. The colors work very well. It's also, what, isn't it like 1,000 objects or lower? NLK, can you confirm? Isn't this like 1,000 objects or under it? Just waiting on NLK to type here. Yeah, it's under 1,000 objects, which I think is also mental. So, where are you thinking A tier it goes? Is it above the Dragos? Does it go here? Is it below Dragos? Is it below Eyes? I think it's called something like Trip to Jurassic Park or something like that, I think, Popelnock. Are you thinking top? Are you thinking above the Dragos? Dino Beach Drago? Okay, we'll put it right at the top of A. Put it right at the top of A. I think Slodzax would agree with that as well, it being above Dragos. So, okay. Talking about another pretty visually impressive section here. We're going back to Electrodonator section. So here it is. That hand is so visually impressive. The problem with this part is the gameplay. So let me talk about every single fix I had to make here. Yeah, no problem, Rat. Your part is honestly one of the parts that just shocked me when I received it. So, all right. So there is a yellow pad beneath this yellow portal because it is unclear you have to jump there. Gives you enough time to jump here as well because it's at the very start. You have to jump here. I added no, that yellow pad was already there. There's a yellow pad beneath this yellow portal because it's unclear you need to jump there. There's a yellow pad beneath this blue portal because it's unclear you need to jump there. You get to tap this orb. There's a sinker portal, which is actually optional because it was very unclear you had to jump there. This part stayed the same. This got spaced out a lot because it used to be way too tight. I was dying there constantly. And that's all the gameplay fixes I did. So, yeah. Gameplay was really hard in that section. Not to mention this section as well. It's a little unclear too. But look at I'm going to just pause throughout this and look at how different every design is in this. Like, we got mini railways going on. We got that design. That is a really nice design. We got like 2.0 type electrician wire stuff going on here. That's really cool. That design is new. That is a really cool design with like a spherical, almost like reactor. This is really cool design. Love the blue outline inside that. This is probably one of my favorite blocks in the MC. Like, that is just so cleanly well done. Sign saying drop this way, good luck. And then we got the hand emerging from yet another different block design. Like, the design in this is like S tier. The problem is the gameplay. And this is one of those parts where I don't know if it detracts it from it getting S tier. And that's also going to be thumbnail worthy, that hand there. Yeah, this part is really hard to play. Even with all the fixes we did, it's still a little awkward in how it plays. So for that, it's either going to be getting low S or high A. I'm just not sure where to put it. So what do we think? Because right now I would put it maybe there in the A tier. Still think it's S. Mid A, low S. Low S, low S. Yeah, I think it's a medium demon as well. I would put it at low hard or hard medium. Okay. We'll put it at the bottom of S. Do we think it's better or worse than Mad Jack? I'm thinking a little worse just because Mad Jack's part's easy to play. But I'm seeing some mid-A, high-A, low S definite. I saw a lot more low S. I'm going to keep low S. Lowest S. Okay, I'm seeing Billy Steak saying lowest S. We'll keep it up there in the lowest S section. Because it's a very cool part. All right. Here's a part that I think might be another S tier. Let me see if I can find it here. I don't entirely remember where it is. But I know it's by Amazing Build Man. What's before that? Here it is. Right after Cat Yards. No, it's not Cat Yards. Cat at Kmart's. I'm so stupid sometimes. Okay. Here is the next part we're looking at. It's Amazing Buildman's part. Or is it a Builder Man? I can't remember. One of those two. Like, it's incredible attention to detail with these windows. The city in the background looks really cool. There's power lines connecting stuff. This is a construction beam being lifted up in the air. Look at their logo as well. What the hell? It's Amazing Buildman. Okay, thank you. I was confusing myself. Okay, I went a little bit too far back. Also, just there's stars in the skies. You know what's crazy? This part stayed under the 5K limit as well. Like, I personally think that's an immediate S. I would actually... I think I'm going to put it up here, actually. I think because of its variation, I'm going to put it a little higher than Ratliffy's, but... maybe I'll put it below. The thing with Amazing Buildman's part is it has a lot of color to it. Like, the windows add a lot of color, the blue and the purple in the background. It's a very colorful part, and it stands out as well. So, no issues with the gameplay. I didn't have to do any fixes to this part, except I think I had to do one thing gameplay-wise with it. No, actually, I don't think I did. Yeah, no, I didn't do anything with it. Yeah. It's a part I didn't have to change anything with. So. Full detail part is 3.7K objects. Yeah, that's incredible. Incredibly done. Yeah. So that went like 2,000 objects under the limit. Or not quite that many. 1,400 objects under the limit, roughly. So I'm going to put it there in the S tier. Ratliffy's part is very visually striking. So it's a toss-up for me between those two. I'm going to keep it like that. Here is another part I would rank pretty highly, personally. After this section. Right here. So, okay. This transition is a whole lot easier than Raving Rafters is showing here, because Raving Rafters took the coin route, which makes 5 jumps blind. So this is Blue Neon 16's part. Very visually striking cave. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you're not taking the coin route, because it makes the gameplay make a lot more sense. I have to start a little bit farther back due to this video. Okay, so here's the part coming up here. You can see these jumps when you take the normal route, so I think that's important to know. But it's really, really well done with what it did. How do I go? Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. That's the middle of it. Wish there was an easy way for me to go forward in 10 seconds, but there's not. Yeah, so let me go back to the original video here. I will say I had to do a slight gameplay tweak in this, which was not their fault. But these portals used to be a little inconsistent. I moved the portals themselves 3 increments forward just to make it a little bit more consistent. But it's an amazing, verdant cave. I think it's an A tier. Where an A tier? I would probably put it here. Do we agree with this placement? Or does it go above my part? and above Cody's part. NLK agrees. Ultra Gamer agrees. Is it Blue Neon 16's part? There? Okay, perfect. We're going to keep it right there. All right, the next one we're going to look at is Billy Steaks. Oh boy, do I have a tale for you. It starts right here. Let's go back so we can see that again. So my understanding is Billy Steaks part's supposed to kind of represent a type of purgatory with these giant like city spires that are popping up in the background. Here's the story. So Billy Steak 3. For some reason, I was like, I took a look at Curly Crew's part as I was fixing it, because Curly Crew is one of the four that we talk about when it comes to playtesters didn't like. And I see, oh my god, why are the half slabs white? All the half slabs in Curly Crew's part were white. And so I try to go back and try to find who put down an object trigger or who put down a color 1 trigger that changed everything to white. And I check Reapertron's part has a fully white blocks as well. I'm like, oh god, that someone has a trigger put somewhere. I go over to Billy Steak 3's part and I swipe for color triggers. Oh, sorry. I swipe for color triggers in this mass of blocks and I find one. He accidentally put a random color trigger down and then spammed the blocks on top of it. Which is very frustrating as someone who was supposed to be merging these parts. Okay, now visually, this part is a little weak. I also think the execution was a little weak. We actually, one of the things NLK changed is these used to not be grid blocks. They used to just be spammed 1.0 blocks. So we changed that to make it look a little bit more consistent with the 1.0 style. We also have a little bit of a block spam right at the beginning. Once again, it's a good part. Really funny story attached to it. Though I do think it is a C tier for this tier list. I'm going to put it probably right above I Exist part because at the very least I didn't have gameplay fixes. The only gameplay fix I had to do was nerf the triple and add a half slab at the front. Everything else went fine. It was just some minor visual tweaks. Not an F tier Billy Steak. I'm not blaming you for any of it. I think it's a funny story how there was just a hidden object trigger there. So it's not an F tier. I think it is a C tier. I'm going to put it right here. Oh, it's just a city. Well, I looked way too much into it then. I'm going to put it here. Once again, it is a good part. It just gave me some hiccups in relation to that color trigger placement. We also had to add a couple like clouds and stuff around it to fix some visual stuff, but I do really like your part, Billy Steak. I'm glad you were able to participate in the collab with us. Once again, this is just for fun, just opinions. I don't think any of the parts are bad. All right. I'm going to pull up some of the darker parts next as the ones we can do. Oh, someone's going to be leaving soon? Oh, someone's leaving soon in the chat. Who's leaving soon? Oh, Shadow, are you leaving? Oh, okay. Shadow, I'll do yours then. Sorry. Where's Shadow's part? This one. Okay, let's do Shadow's part before I have to leave. I hope I'm not too late. You can also catch all of this at the end once the VOD gets uploaded. Here's Maniac Dan's part. We'll do that one soon. Here's Shadow's part. So something to mention about Shadow's part, they built on the ground, so I had to add a custom ground for them. So see you, Billy Steak. I'll do yours afterwards. I think just from that look, you can see what vexed me about this part. I am a little Timmy and I get to this section. Where do I go? Yeah, so this is where it gets a little tricky because their gimmick was sliding on top of spikes. The problem was which spikes were safe and which spikes were not safe. So I tried to make it very obvious that you had to get on top of these spikes here by clicking this orb. And then I had the problem where there were normal spikes up here and normal spikes down here. So what I had to do was put black spikes up here. I added some tentacle-y likeness to tell you, hey, this is going to kill you. So you need to go down. The arrow helps establish that. So this is a bit of like visual, this is a bit of like Geometry Dash gameplay theory. This is more dangerous than this because this has a lot more like murkiness to it. The arrow just helps us reestablish. It doesn't tell you everything. This, the orb, you have to hit it. And then there's more murkiness down here. You can't just fall down here. You're going to have to jump. There is an arrow pointing down to this spike, which tells you, hey, this spike is safe. So, did I miss a non-1.0 block? Yeah, that's okay. I can fix that later. I'm going to be re-verifying it anyway later. So, there's not a 2.0 block. So, again, this is more theory. This arrow just helps, but most of it is visually for making a decision. And then you fall into the pad, hit the orb, and you finish that out. So, that took me a long time to figure out. There was also a fake orb here that I erased because it was too confusing. I also had the spike to help you not hit it because it would slam you into the ceiling. But I just erased the fake orb there. And Shadow and I had a huge discussion about how to fix this, so. There is, yeah, this right here I think is the 1.3 block. I'll fix that later. Once again, that was my issue from saying it was useful inside the contest, but. I don't see a 2.0 block in here, so I don't know what y'all are talking about. There's no 2.0 block. Okay, so let's place this. Because interesting dive into the fixes that I had to do for that. It's so I'm thinking it's probably maybe low B. Because even with my allusions to what to do, it's still very confusing for the player. Scorch, I don't see a single 2.0 block. Scorch, I think you're joking. I'm going to assume you're joking. Wait, is there an extended slab? Hold on. I don't see any extended slab. You know, Mad Jack, I do love Schizophrenia because that level was peak. Okay, sorry. I can't. You guys are pranking me. I hate that. Okay. Is it above or below Cat Yara's part? I'm gonna put it below because the gameplay is a bit unclear, but I do think it may be a bit visually stronger than it. So, okay. We're doing. I think Wes needed to leave soon, so I'm gonna do Wes's part, and then we'll do some of the dark sections. Wes's part is right here. Oh, I see another part that might be Esther that we can do a little later. Okay, Wes's part. So, funny thing about Wes's part, I'm gonna let you see it. So he gave it to me. He gave it to me as he made this for his collab part. It's got some really nice visual stuff to it. Sorry, this is T doubles. We'll get to that later. Really nice visual stuff to it. After he had it done, he copy and pasted it into Firepower as a way to fill up some of the empty space. Because there was an empty section in Firepower. Questionable move, in my opinion. But that's just a fun fact. Let's take a look at the actual part. This part was really hard. So I did have to do a lot of changes to it. I had to move this portal over slightly because there was the chance that you could hit the spikes if you tapped the orb, I think a little late. Had to erase quite a few. I had to raise some of this stuff. It was too low. I think that star especially is a little bit too low. This rocket part, I had to add this because the transition was blind. It was a fine rocket section. It's just this was too blind, so I added that to help fix it. Had to raise this star a little bit higher. Had to erase a couple of these because if you enter the portal late, you would die. And then I had to move these around because depending on how you hit this orb, you could crash into the ceiling. I also added a sinker portal to help get the cube downwards. So a lot of fixes had to be done there. I also had to do this because you could also crash into the spikes instead of landing on the platform. So there was a lot of like fixes because the variation with how you hit the orbs would change the way that the part would work. That's just how the gameplay is. So visually, it's pretty cool. It might be a little bit on the cluttered side, maybe for the execution. Might have been a bit cluttered. But I do like the way that it looks. It also ties pretty nicely into Maniac Dan's with that big old warning stuff at the top. I do think that makes a decent transition. Like these look just like what in Maniac Dan's part it has. So yeah, sinker portals. Matt Mart actually asked me if he was the only person using sinker portals, and I said no. There's actually quite a few used. So where would I put this? It was a bit of a headache to get this into its nerfed state. If it had, I would say, would be top of A, low S. If it had the gameplay it has now. Because of the headache it gave me, I'm actually going to put it right below Ambersand's part in A tier. That's my opinion. Because a lot of the fixes I had to do, I would fix it and then it'd become a problem again. So I'd have to tweak it and then it'd become a problem again. I had to fix it again. It was a very long process of fixing. So I don't know what y'all think. That's where I'm putting it personally. So hey, it's Kelsey. Glad to see you here. See you, Cat Yar. Thanks for joining the stream. All right. To those who just joined, this is what our tier list is looking like so far. This is going to have to be a 2-part series, I'm fearing, because we got this many parts left. So we'll get as many done as we can. I wanted to do some of the black sections next, the dark sections that heavily featured black backgrounds as further parts. What are some of the other ones? Obscuras is another. sodium hydroxides. Yeah. Oh, Tim Tiger. All right. So these sections featured black backgrounds through most of it, maybe with the occasional. Cat Yards is kind of similar, but it has a lot of flashing to it. So let's take a look. The ending of the collab is Pulvanok. Here's Pulvanok's part. Raving Raptors did not do that at all how intended. But you're supposed to jump at all the indicators. I had to add those indicators because it was a little unclear to a little Timmy how you're supposed to jump on these seemingly deadly objects. Your part is in there, Lofi. You're supposed to jump on every single indication. Then they have the GG. This was added by me to help get them above the level, and then I made the ending credits. But another thing we should keep in mind with Pulvanok, though, is Pulvanok actually made the ending title. So I don't know if you want to count that or not, but this was built by them based on a template that I designed for them because I'm awful at art. Yeah, and that's another thing. This is the last part of the collab. I think it being a black section really helps sell it because it's like there's not much going on the piano. It works really well as a final conclusion. Now, I would personally think it's a high A. I wouldn't necessarily put it in S personally, but I could also see an argument made for S. So I guess it's up to you. What do you think, everybody? This is where I'd put it personally. I put it maybe below the Dragons. Yeah, it's an amazing ending. And for that, I could see potential argument for S. So I kind of want to see what y'all think. No, I'm not putting it down for the saw. IA. Do we like where I've put it? Okay, seeing a lot of mid A, high A. Oh, it's Falling Pie leaving soon. Okay, you're going to be leaving soon. Falling Pie will do your part next. So I'm going to keep that where Pulvanox is. Again, the tier order doesn't entirely matter that much. It's just for helping other people. Okay, Falling Pie is going to be leaving soon. We're going to do Falling Pies next, which is where? You'd think by now I'd have this organized, but I do not. FFF, that's B, that's BC. Oh, there it is. Okay. Falling Pie's part we're going to do next. Falling Pie's going to be leaving soon. That's what I was told by Enola K, who's moderating chat. Okay, so this doesn't do this part justice, actually. None of the videos we've made of this collab do this part justice, because if you fall down here, there is an entire separate route, which is the coin part. And in the coin part, you got this beautiful water feature. Actually, I think I have it right here. Yeah. In this section, you got this beautiful water feature that is part of the coin route. So you have to fall down and you jump in here. There's fish, there's coral down there. There's splashes of water coming off of it. And then you got Falling Pie's text in the middle there. So thought I would mention that. Here is the top section, though. Yeah, so what are we thinking placement-wise? I think it might be a low S. personally. Maybe there. Yeah. Also, didn't have to do hardly any fixes except an LDM, which the LDM was a little hard due to the water feature, but not going to count that against them. Needed to do like no fixes to this part. It was like perfect. So I think I'm going to put it right above Mad Jack. Is it above our airship? It's very similar to the airship that it's a multi-route. There is 3 routes to take on this. Coin route, main route, and there's also a secondary route that you can take as well. So it's kind of like an open world part. Seeing low S, so I'm going to put it there. I do think it's a little bit better than Electrodonators because the gameplay plays very well, but I'm going to put it right under Magix. Okay. Awesome. Hope Falling Pie was able to catch the tail end of that. So now let's do our Black Background Saga here. Asmit's part. Should be right after Gania's, yeah. I like this animation that they made at the very end. That kind of helps with the uniqueness. As a space-related part, that being said, the execution, I'm not too sold on. I think there could have been some background flashes through the entire section instead of just right here at the end. Though I can also see it flashing because it's like a boost pad. Also, I'm not sure what this animation's supposed to be. I think it's a starship entering a hangar, but it's a little hard to tell. But yeah, I do think it's a bit on the empty side all around. I think some stars could have helped it. Its execution's maybe a little bit low, but it certainly plays fine. I did have to do some slight edits regarding readability. There is some blind jumps in there. And there's also some asteroids that looked like you could jump on them. So I personally would put this somewhere down here, maybe above Cruise part in B tier. What do y'all think? Oh yeah, the LDM on this part. We need to talk about that. Thank you, Edna. Okay. They made their own LDM, and what it did is it actually erased the objects you needed to step on. So we had to fix this because you need to erase stuff inside it because it's taking up a lot of objects, all these tiny circles, but it's hard to select those without erasing the entire dots structuring. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, the gameplay got erased on the LDM. We're actually going to probably put it down here. The LDM was such a pain to fix. So I'm actually going to put it down here in C tier. Actually, I'm going to put it right here, actually. So if it didn't have that problem, I would put it at around the bottom of B. But yeah, that was a huge problem that NLK figured out. I'm glad he figured it out because that would have been bad for those LDM users. All right. Okay, I don't know what it is, Maniac or Mad Jack. I don't know what it is. Protogen, Proton. I'm not big in that lore. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about Dawn's part. So Dawn was a sub. I think that's important to note. Dawn has a very interesting style. I personally like the visual appeal of Dawn's style. A lot of people do not. This was one of the parts where one of my test players was complaining. Mainly because this part's gameplay was awful. Something to note. Do you see this little line here? This little white line at the top? That's because this is a fix after I made a fix. To get this gradient effect, Don had black spikes, right? But he had black spikes extending past the platforms. So this platform right here was unlandable because there were spikes on it. I had to clear a lot of I had to lower this platform because it used to be you had to go way up high next to the spikes. I had to erase a bunch of gameplay. I had to move this platform over because it used to be like nearly pixel perfect. I had to add these spikes with a little bit of black, showing that you couldn't just fall there. This is one of the only blind clicks in the entire level. This used to be an actual part where you had to swing into these portals, which used to be way higher, and then hit this, and you couldn't see. It used to be all orb taps in those portals. You couldn't see it at all. So I moved these back, called them decoration objects, and get this, Dawn messaged me the other day, very angry that I ruined his gameplay and that I made it a secret way because he thought you still had to enter these portals when you in fact did not. So, yeah, it was a tough part. Slodziax, I think, was the one who graded this. Slodziax did not like us playing this section. There was a lot of stuff I had to fix in regards to secret ways. Black spikes that you couldn't see. That was a huge problem, is that there were so many spots that killed you when it looked like it shouldn't kill you. So, I do like this, the way this looks. I'm glad that Don was able to participate in the collab. I do think this goes, honestly, maybe here. Because I had to do a lot of changes. I even had to show Don the initial changes I did. And even after my initial changes, my test players still didn't like the level. So, yeah, he did not like the fact that his part got fixed, but at the same time, it wasn't that it was too hard, it was that it was too hard to see. People were struggling because they were just dying to random stuff. So, I'm going to put it here. A different problem to I Exist part, in the fact that it was purely a visual problem instead of a gameplay problem. All right, let's talk about Hi There Eric's part, which is back here. It's after Curly Cruise. We'll talk about Curly Cruise in a little bit. So here's Hi There Eric's part. Yes, he put in the 1.4 saw. Oh, see ya, King Kath. Sorry didn't get to your part. We will get to it probably in the next stream. I did not do Not a Moderator's part yet, but I might soon, so. Not a Moderator, they did stick out very far. That was the problem. Their black spikes were like way over. So here's Hi There Eric's part. Very much on the simple side of things, which isn't a bad thing. But the visual appeal is not great. The particles do a lot here. And there's some cool stuff. It doesn't need pulses because it's in a very calm section of the song. Execution-wise, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Gameplay is also pretty fine. I do think it might just be the top of C tier, personally. But no, Not a Moderator. It got fixed. That part got majorly fixed, so you're not going to find it anymore. But the spike hitboxes used to be really bad. But I'm going to put it here. I don't know what you all think. Give me your thoughts. I think it's just a solid, good part, personally. I'll wait till I see some comments before I move on. Top of C is good. Okay, we're going to keep it there then. Next one is no name stuff. Got where that is. Oh, I think it's in the first half. Yeah. Nope, not in the first. Where is this part? No, it's in the first half, isn't it? Oh, dang, I can't remember where this is. Oh, there it is. It's after Gania's part. No, it's after Penty's part. So after this part, we'll have no name stuff's part. Here it is. Yeah, relying on very dark backgrounds. I personally think this part looks really cool. I like that design a lot. Thank you, Tenet. I've actually beaten the level 3 times now. Yeah, this one was also really hard. Those slabs were added as a nerf. This was lowered. That was raised. That was lowered. That was raised. That was lowered. A spike was erased here and here. This platform was added for merging reasons. That was not their fault. But yeah, very difficult part, but I do think it looks pretty nice. So yeah, it's definitely an odd play one. I would put this in a B tier, probably a solid B tier. I'd probably put it maybe right there. I think it's a high B. I like 4x4's part a little bit more, but I think that's where I would personally put it. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. It's random order, Tenet. Or Tunet. Tunet GD, I think. Sorry. But if you agree with me, let me know. You think low B? So I think it should be down here somewhere. We did have to do a lot of fixes. I forgot to keep that in mind. I will put it here then. Okay. Okay, I would agree with the B to A thing, but the fact we had to do so many nerfs to that, I think it's good in about the middle of the pack of the B. Maybe I'm the lower middle pack. A lot of changes had to happen. All right, your global goats part. He had an unfortunate section. He's between two of the most hyper-decoed parts inside the collab. And then he got Reapertrons on the other side. Gabby's part is very detailed. Okay. For reference, I want you to eliminate the stars and null K added around here. So it's just these. All the background pulsing. So none of the pulsing blue. And then replace the dot blocks with the 1.4 black dot blocks. And then you have your global goat submitted part to me. So this used to be non-1.0 blocks, and I want to establish that. I had to change these to the 1.0 dot blocks. Which wasn't too much work, but just thought I'd mention that. Visually, it's not great. Execution-wise, we had to do a lot of changes to it to make it a little bit more decorated. I do think this is going into C tier. I'm going to put it right above Pinkman's part because at the very least it looked okay. It didn't look like bright pink. So yep. Gonna put it right here and see. Okay, next one is Obscura GD's part. Oh boy. So we get MLK's 3-star rocket part, and we got thrown into what was arguably a medium hard demon. The amount of nerfing that went into this. Oh, just got notification. DanoLex is live. Let me send in the gigacollab real fast. Mute as oh, dang, I was muted the whole time. Oh, dang it. I explained all of that. Okay. Long story short, way too much. Way too hard. A lot of fixes. MLK to fix it in when he was doing deco fixes. So we had to put it here. We're going to put it up right after Chakins. It would be a solid A, maybe solid high A, because it's visually, it's really, really cool. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. It didn't work with the stuff. Do you still not have the mic? Do you have the mic now? Test, test. Test, test, test. Does this work? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I did not realize it was muted. I muted because I heard someone moving down there. So, yeah, visually pretty part. Just really hard to tell where the blocks are. It was also really, really difficult. We had to do so many nerfs to this. So, okay. I'm going to put it here unless someone tells me otherwise. Next part is sodium hydroxides. Part it's either in chat, so this is awesome. Wait, Scorch, you finished? Scorch, you're all done? Awesome, 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 awesome. GG, Scorch. Thank you so much for getting that done. I really appreciate it, man. All right, let's talk about sodium hydroxides part. Now, this will look like a blind jump, but it's not because I added a pad down there. River Afters took the pad. That was one of the fixes I did to this section. For some reason, when I copied it over, I was missing this guy's face as well, so I had to ask him to send it over again so I can get their face back in there. That's on me, though. I had to add an extension to this because it was a little bit too hard. Syncs really well to the music. Really enjoy that. And then this transition I talked about in Cat Yar's part. But yeah, I always saw this as a solid A tier section. It is a little bit on the empty side, but I think the execution is really, really well done. Especially with the black background there. It's in the calm piano section. So... Hey, the magenta is good enough, Scorch. Thank you for getting that done. All right, so I would personally put this in the A tier. Let me get it up to the A. Where exactly in A tier? I'm thinking probably up here, but I'll hear from what you guys have to say. NRK said, sure, that works. Does anyone else say anything? Okay, I'm going to just put it there then. All right. Last black section we got is Tim Tiger 1903 Yee's part, I think. I'm not sure what that means, but... should be right after Cody's. Here it is. Yeah. So this is the part. It seems a tad messy to me execution-wise, especially with this dragon breathing fire. It's really cool. Really creative part. It's just its execution I don't think was the best. Gameplay is fine. I did have to make a couple changes, like NLK extended a slab here because the jump was a little bit of a blind spot. Excuse me. So, yeah, they also got a little Scully cube there, which is really interesting. Yeah, but a little bit messy on the deco. I do think it's a very creative part. The gameplay plays well. I'm thinking it's probably a solid B. Middle of the pack B, maybe. I'd put it there probably. So I'll let you tell me what you think. Yeah, so Ultra Gamer, I will say that because yours wasn't listed, I did not have the judges judge it. I'll let you know that. Think B? Yeah, I was thinking here, so I think middle is fine. Okay. I'm getting a bit tired, so we're going to probably do like maybe 3 more. Which 3 to do? Grab one from B. Grab one from down here. And I personally would like to do this one. Okay. We're going to do Bobby Boy 83s, Psychopros, and Vliorts to end things off today. And what would that put us at? Oh, we still got a ton. Oh, let's do 5. Let's do 5 more. We'll also do this one. And my one that I really like the designs for, where's that? Here it is. We'll do this one as well. Okay, we're going to do these top 5, and then we'll call it a day. So let's do Bobby Boys now. Bobby Boys is about... right after Turn-Wares, actually. So that's Bobby Boy's part. I do like the gameplay in this section. I think it's very fun. Visually, I think this... it's lacking a little bit. Kind of just feels like stuff's been put around for the sake of filling up space, which I personally don't agree with. That's also an execution problem, too. This used to be very spammy. We NLK helped make that a little bit cleaner. I think this is supposed to be like a hand or a crystal. Not entirely sure which one it's supposed to be, but yeah. I say this is probably a bottom B tier section. I think it's a great part just because of its gameplay. I think its gameplay is very good. But I do think its visual and execution does kind of hold it back from being any higher than this. So... yeah, there was a couple fixes for gameplay. I don't think they were necessarily needed. But NLK is talking about in chat. These orbs used to be right on top of each other. We changed them to be a little bit more to the side to kind of indicate to the player, hey, we need to tap both of them. That you're moving a little bit higher by tapping both of these. Which did work well. The other gameplay sections, I think we erased spikes here. And that was that. I think that's everything. Yeah. So we erased some spikes up here so you can hold into the rocket section and not die. I think it's still probably bottom B. All right. Next one. Sorry. Psychopros is going to be back here. Right next to Invos. And on the burgers. Here's Psychopros part star right here. I really like this part. I think the only thing that's not ideal about it. Oh, let's watch Zoobs real fast. The only thing that's not ideal about it is that you can see below the structure, which I think was an issue on me, because I think when copying it over, I think the black spikes are on a different layer, and I missed collecting them. There's supposed to be black spikes down there. Otherwise, I think this part looks amazing. This art is a thumbnail-worthy piece of work there. I really like this block design. The yellow works really well with the dark blue in the background, so. Also, the gameplay is so fun. Like, I didn't have to do, like, any gameplay changes. There's also a coin up there, in case you missed that in the videos. Okay. Oh yeah. I personally, I'm not sure if it's A or S, but it's either here in the A or, here in the A or here in the S. I'm tempted to put it here in the A, although I'm going to put it here. S definitely? Okay. Then I'm going to put it right here. Is it a little empty? Yes, but I think it works very, very well. This is one of the parts that I was so happy with when I saw it come through, because they did such a good job, so. I'm going to put it just above Falling Pies. I like it a lot, so. Gotta learn about some of my favorite parts in this. Psychoprose is definitely in my top 10. Okay, next is Vlyorts. This is another one that I think might be an S-worthy section. Something important to know about Vlyort's part. No fixes were needed. Except for, I think, some minor transition reworking. I had to move the pads, I think, a couple spaces over to fix the transition. But almost no rework was needed. And this was only like 3K objects. It was way under the object count. Like, this is also a very iconic part. Like, I could totally see, like, Nexus making this the thumbnail. So, I think this might be another low S for me personally. Like, maybe there. Or here. I actually might put it right above Psychoprose. Because Psychoprose, I did still have to make a couple changes. Tweaking, I think mainly just because I was adding a coin, but it's another thumbnail part, so very simple, very effective use of the objects. Like, this went way under the 5K limit for each part. So I'm going to put it about here, unless someone argues differently with me. A good spot for it. All right, speaking about Zoob's part, that's the one we're going to be looking at next. Now, I will say, I don't personally like Zoob's part all that much. I still think it's a great section of the gigacollab, for sure. But personally, this is unnecessary. Holy, Deathstrip is losing his cool. Because when making the advanced LDM for this, like, because I needed 50% of the objects on the LDM, I highlighted all the blocks in here, and there was like 4,000 blocks that you like couldn't see. I highlighted these 4,000 blocks that were like made almost no visual difference, or like 4,000 blocks within the outside blocks. That's what it was. 4,000 blocks within the outside ones. I don't know how he made this, but this part is way too many objects. The object spam doesn't even look very good. We had to move this hand slightly down because if you let go, it would kill you. It was a little bit too high. Otherwise, the part is fine, but the blocks, man. You have thousands of objects just sitting in here, and it doesn't even, like, you can't even see them. I also strongly disagree with the background color choices in this part. I think it looks horrible with the blue color. But that's just my opinion. So I know that's a little bit more forgivable, but I think it's unforgivable how many objects they put into this. There's way too many objects here. For that, I am considering a low B. I personally would put it in C, but I also understand that I have maybe a personal bias against the way that it looks. So it's not an S tier. Not an S tier. So tell me what you think. And okay, so C, Ultra Gamer says low B. I'm actually going to put it below Shadow's part at the very least. I do like the ideas, and some of the designs are pretty cool. But Gania, I did like your green background a lot. We'll probably cover your part in the part 2 that I'll be releasing probably tomorrow. All right. As a interesting change, we're going to end on one of the parts I like a lot, or that I liked the visuals of, and ironically, it was a part I died in during verification. Van Dilt's part. I really like Van Dilt's style. I really like these funky, wonky creatures, and I'm very glad that they included that in the gigacollab as well. The gameplay is very smooth, albeit I did die in the collab when I was trying to verify it because this jump is a little tight. I don't think it's bad though. I just love all the creatures that he makes. I love quirkiness. Vandal's very quirky with the way that he handles designs, and I really like that. So, I always saw this as like a tier. So I'm gonna move it into A tier. Where I would put it, I'd probably put it there. Actually, maybe there. My heart tells you to put it there. I think realistically, it probably should be put there. Clean mid-A. Yeah, that's about mid-A. Yeah, that's about mid-A. I'm going to put it right there. So, yeah. All right. That's where we're going to end it. I think, let me take a look. Let me take a count. 8, 16, 20, 22, 34, 44, 54. We still have a long way to go. About halfway would be around... Actually, around part 67. So when we get 6, 7 on there, we'll be about halfway through. But I think this is where I'm going to end it for today, just because I'm getting a little tired talking. We got a lot of cool parts still. We got some parts I still think are going to be S tier. After this is all done, I will be asking all of you for your favorite parts personally, and you can't vote for your own. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in one more stream, but we'll see what it takes. So maybe I'll divide it into 2. Maybe I'll do one tonight. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow. But yeah, here's our tier list so far. In our S tier, we got 8. And in our A tier, we got 14. B tier is the largest. And then we got some of the C tier. So yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. I will share this video once it's all done. But yeah, for now, that's it, folks. Thank you for attending. We'll be hitting Blackbird next time. Don't worry. All right, goodbye, everyone.